The Transforming Tourism Initiative is a platform for non-governmental organizations, tourism practitioners, tourism critical academia, who joined together first in 2017. We had a meeting in Berlin with about 30 participants from 19 countries who met to discuss what the 2030 agenda on sustainable development means, particularly in the context of tourism. They have agreed that we need a severe transformation of our world so that a sustainable development is possible. They had a quite clear and critical perspective on the state of the world that they have seen in 2015. And I think we all agree that not enough had changed so far in this situation of crisis that Corona is raising our attention to, that we need even more energy to transform the status of the world today to fulfill this vision that not only the leaders of the state, but also broadly civil society, businesses, the economic sector, the bank sector had agreed to. In 2017, when we met in the Transforming Tourism Initiative, we have developed a declaration which is saying very clearly that the transforming of the world is not possible without transforming tourism as well. The core principles that the Transforming Tourism Initiative developed in 2017 for tourism that is meaningful and that has a positive contribution are three principles. Human rights and self-determination of communities must be the core of every tourism development. This includes a meaningful participation and the right to decide which tourism should take place in communities and where people are living. It also saying that if tourism is developed, it should have a widespread and fair distribution of economic and social benefits. And last but not least, it should be a beneficial experience for travelers and hosts alike. Now, with the COVID crisis, we decided in the Transforming Tourism Initiative to strengthen our view on those who are most severely affected by the health crisis, by the economic crisis, but also by the persisting crises that are still there, which is inequality and which is climate change. We want to have a clear statement which is saying loudly how civil society, how tourism academics, how practitioners who are already practicing sustainable practices in tourism, how they see a change so that tourism after the crisis is stronger, better and more healthy than it is today.
Welcome you all to explore together with a group of practitioners who are involved in community-based tourism and social tourism from around the world. We want to provide a platform for people to share resilience before, during COVID-19. We found that many organizations evolved and developed out of a resilience. They adapted and adopted the community-based tourism and social tourism approaches precisely in response to the challenges in their own countries and communities. So we're asking ourselves, that resilience that was contributed to people's development, how has that expressed itself in today's world, in today's COVID world, where the social, economic and political challenges of COVID clearly, stating the very obvious, mean there is very, very little tourism at all. Secondly, we have a belief. It's a belief. We have an assumption. And we have an assumption that, quite simply, community-based tourism and social tourism can be a vital foundation for the future. How do we do it? How do we do it in looking forward in this new world? Big challenges, big thoughts, big aspirations, but a key conclusion is we must be ambitious. We must be ambitious and confident, and we are beginning a process now, today, in this event, where we're hoping to bring together people. And we're very happy to see so many of us involved from different countries and activities together today to bring together to take these issues forward in a way of substance, but also both a vision and belief that we can contribute to more just and equal world. We have the privilege of 4 speakers. First, on Claudia Mitteneder. It's a privilege for you to join us, Claudia. Thank you very, very much. She is the Manager Director for Studienkreis für Tourismus und Entwicklung, and she holds a master's degree in business administration of the Ludwig Maximilians University in Munich. Long time, these words, long time experience of development-related tourism, marketing, and in the field of tour operator management. She's also a member of the trainer team for intercultural tour guide qualifications. So incredible experience and position to share your wisdom with us today. Also, and by absolutely no means least, the Institute for Tourism and Development, her host organization, which she is the managing director of, is the organizer of the widely respected and deeply appreciated To-Do Award, which is quite simply one of the most prestigious and important international award processes for socially responsible tourism, what we are hoping to talk about today. So without further ado, Claudia, please could you share your wisdom with everyone? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Andy, for the warm welcome. I don't know what to say. So I will start immediately. As Andy said already, I work in the tourism industry already for many years, and our industry had to cope with a lot of crises ever since. Over-tourism at touristic hotspots, the climate change with all its negative effects, and also many regional and political crises. The global tourism industry is faced with enormous challenges in coping with the immediate and medium to long-term effects of the pandemic caused by the coronavirus. The collapse of the travel market has affected players along the entire touristic value chain. Apart from tour operators, carriers, and hotels, it hit mainly the employees in tourism at the destinations. A quick recovery of the tourism business cannot be expected. Even so, the domestic and European travel markets are currently being revived in a cautious manner. Over the coming months and years, tourism will be different from what we have seen in the past. So the situation is certainly dramatic. I also see opportunities for a new approach in tourism. The value added in tourism would need to have more positive than negative effects for the tourists as well as for the host countries. What is the value added of a trip if I cause greenhouse gas emissions? So the awareness of the ecological costs would need to increase further. When marketing destinations, people's living environment should be the focus, not tourism as such. Being authentic and showing the real life at the destination are gaining weight in people's travel division. Today's tourists have started to rethink their approach, and the tourism industry therefore needs to create alternatives. There is a rising demand for sustainable and socially responsible tourism. According to the Reiseanalyse 2020, these are the newest figures, the Reiseanalyse, the German holiday survey, 61% of the German travelers prefer a social responsible and/or a sustainable vacation. Of course, socially responsible and sustainable tourism projects cannot prevent global crisis, as we are currently experience them. But I'm convinced that the possibility of directly managing their tourism projects help to strengthen the economic power of local communities and make them more resilient against crisis in general. So community-based tourism could be a good solution. For example, when a community sells land to a hotel company, they get once an amount of money, maybe some locals get a job, but the whole profit for the next years goes to the hotel company. So the needs and interests of the local people have not been taken into account. But local people are the ones who share their landscape and cultures with tourists from all over the world. So it's important to have them participate with the value added in tourism and involve them in decision-making and management. Participation of the locals is one of the core facts of the community-based tourism. If the local community is not involved in planning and in the implementation of the tourism project, it will most probably fail. Their concerns and needs have to be taken into account. So they have to identify themselves with the project and have to benefit also in economic terms from it. The profit should be reinvested within the community, for example, to build schools, necessary infrastructure, and so on. Especially in a crisis like the coronavirus, at the moment, we see that it is essential to raise awareness of the risk and opportunity associated with tourism development and its impact on economic, social, and cultural aspects of local people's daily life. The community-based tourism means also the community does not totally depend on tourism. Tourism should be seen as an additional income. As women are often very much involved in the tourism project, they can earn an extra income and gain kind of independency which support the gender equity. Environmental and climate-related sustainability and sustainable use of natural resources are nowadays unique selling points for community-based tourism. Foreign tourists also want to meet people and learn and understand their daily life. They want to have an authentic experience. So it's very important to promote intercultural encounters and exchange between hosts and guests, and to strengthen the local culture and local identity. Of course, socially responsible tourism project cannot prevent global crises as we are currently experiencing them. But I'm convinced that the possibilities of directly managing their tourism projects helps to strengthen the economic power of local communities and make them more resilient against crisis in general. Now I want to share some information about the To-Do Award 21 with you. We have launched this contest about 26 years ago. From the beginning, we had the idea to honor successful projects for sustainable tourism and to enable them to gain best possible visibility. Since the contest was launched, we have received more than 500 project submissions from more than 90 countries. Participation in the planning and implementation of tourism projects and benefit sharing of everybody involving along the entire chain are basic requirements. The deadline for the application for the submission is the 15th of August, 2020. And the winners will be invited to ITB Berlin next March and will receive a prize money of 5,000 Swiss francs. You will find the conditions of participation in an application form under www.todo-contest.org in English. So we look forward to receive many applications, and I hope I have drawn your interest. And if you know somebody suitable, just inform them about our contest. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Claudia. Thank you so much. That's great to get us going. And just to highlight a couple of key points, apart from the award possibilities, is that, as you say, the environmental and climate-related sustainability is not just something which is imperative for us all to contribute to, but as you say, a unique selling point. Some would argue, and we can speculate, it will be an increasingly important unique selling point based on people's individual and collective experiences over the last months and looking forward. And so I think it's a very timely and very important way that you share that. And I've seen some of the comments that some people are saying that community-based tourism can be the solution. It's great. It's a bit absolute. Hopefully we can see it be can be a way forward, at least. Total solution might be very optimistic. But thank you, Claudia, for that. That's greatly appreciated. So now, without further ado, we will move from Europe to Latin America. And so it's a very warm welcome to Natalia Naranjo, who's from COMMUNITUR in Colombia. So early morning, thank you for getting up so early, along with everyone else in Latin America, which is very respected, not just appreciated, but respected. So Natalia is an expert advisor in tourism and development, and is also a leader for development and strengthening of COMMUNITUR itself, which is an exchange management platform for the development of tourism initiatives in Colombia and across Latin America. She's also the representative for Colombia of the Canadian Executive Service Organization, SESC, and is a professional in finance, international relations from Universidad Externado de Colombia, and has a master's degree in environmental intervention from the Faculty of Social Psychology from the University of Barcelona in Spain. More than 10 years experience in tourism, development, and international relations, also with community work, work with the public and private sector, events, capacity building, teaching, lecturing, and so much more. So with all of that, Natalia, please, we would warmly welcome you to share your perspective on that from COMMUNITUR of some of the key issues we're hoping to discuss today. Bienvenidos.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy. Good morning from Colombia. Yeah, it's early, but I think it's even earlier in Central America. We have people from Central America, and it's even earlier. Then good morning and thank you to be here. Good day, everyone. I apologize for my English, but I'll do my best. I'm Natalia, leader of COMMUNITUR. We are a network of professionals and initiatives in sustainable and responsible tourism in Colombia and Latin America and Iberoamerica. We believe in small initiatives that are doing a huge difference in our territories. And that's why we promote and support those small initiatives and their efforts through different tools. We have technical knowledge, management, networks, opportunities. It depends on their specific needs. We take into account different aspects of these initiatives to identify their importance and their relevance at the local level. Some aspects are environmental awareness, cultural and social awareness, links and local networks, and also that they are not only a business model, but a territorial strategy. That's very, very important. We are professionals from Spain and Latin America, and different initiatives in Colombia of community-based tourism, in ecotourism, local networks like Pijao Chita Slow, that is the first slow city in Latin America, environmental initiatives also, rural and agricultural initiatives, and we are also partners with some organizations in Argentina, Chile, and Spain. Well, I'm going to name some few cases where we can see the resilience of these of some of the initiatives in the communities in Latin America. In this context, the first one is in Pijao, that is supported by the Pijao Chitaslow Foundation in Pijao, Quindío, Colombia, that is in the coffee region. This is Chitaslow city, it's a slow city. During this pandemic, they got together with different producers and with their local network to identify local organic producers. Some of them, mostly of them are women, rural women that produce organic products. And they call this initiative La Canastilla del Buen Vivir, like the good living small basket. Yeah. Then when I was preparing this presentation, then I asked to the partner in Argentina if there is another one, and there is another. And he sent me one very similar from another community, Yariguarendá in Argentina, that is part of the Argentinian network of rural tourism, ecotourism. Community-based tourism. from the field to your home. It's what they are selling now. Then they got back to agriculture, producing local organic production and selling to the region and at the local level. Then those initiatives, well, I've seen most of them, more of them. There are more. Turuyaco is another in Argentina, and AgroSolidaria is the other one in Colombia that we have been supporting them. This one is very interesting because they are doing a wonderful job nowadays, trying to strengthening the local distribution networks of local agroecological producers in Colombia. This is a titanic job, and they can use any support because, and we are trying to do so between COMMUNITUR and AgroSolidaria. During this pandemic, we have been seeing like structural problems arise more than ever in our territories. What we see is that when a community has been lost their control of their local assets, is more vulnerable. For example, the poverty in big cities is a shame, but if the people keep this control of their land, of their fauna, flora, water supply, forest, etc., they gain more control of what they can do. And this is a huge challenge in Latin America because the land has a lot of conflicts. There are a lot of pressure from different activities and other, well, what we have been seeing probably all over the world. No? It's not only in Latin America. Then there is a lot of pressure on the resources, on the local resources, but it's important that the communities gain control and keep control of their assets and their land and their resources. I think that's a key in this work that we have been talking about resilience. Also solidarity and interconnection is another key topics, I think, of resilience. And well, these are only a few cases. Probably there are a lot more in Latin America regarding this link between the land and the community and how they can keep producing food and how can we keep supporting them in these distribution channels that are not the best now, no? Our Latin American countries, communities' resilience is permanent. It's not only during the pandemic, it's permanent. If we can keep working along with them so they can maintain cultural, environmental diversity, their solidarity networks, the link with the land, the agriculture, the water, the forest, we will succeed in some of our current challenges. Unfortunately, in some cases, the institutional framework and the support is not the ideal, or is not any at all sometimes in some cases. But these kind of activities and this kind of support from different institutions, academic networks, etc., I think can make a big difference to support the awareness of the importance of these kind of initiatives from the local communities. Now thinking about the future, communities and tourism not only have to be a business model or local networks, probably it has to be also a way of traveling. Yeah, probably it has to be a new way to get close to the reality that are mostly in the rural areas. Well, there are community-based initiatives in urban areas also, but I think mainly in Latin America are linked to the rural area. That's why in some countries they call it, they don't call it community-based tourism, but rural community-based tourism. And then probably is a good way to understand the needs of the others, the needs of the communities, and support these initiatives linked to the resources that support life. Yeah, I think that's also a key topic. What we could do is to identify these initiatives that are supporting life in our communities, in our countries, and try to do our best to work together. And the invitation is that, to keep working to strengthen these communities' initiatives, because I think it's not only the present, but the future We have to be very careful anyway, because some of the communities, mainly indigenous communities, are closed. They are scared to open to tourism. It's probably sometimes risky to say that the future is nature-based, community-based tourism, because how we are going to do it. No, it's very important to think how we are going to do it and how can we do it respectfully. When I talk always about sustainable tourism, now it's a must. Tourism is not only tourism, it's sustainable tourism. But I always say that it has to be also community-based tourism. If not, there is not good tourism. Thank you.
Oh, brilliant. That is absolutely perfect, Natalia. I feel inspired, very, very inspired by what you've shared. I think you've taken us through the absolutely fundamental principles and central practice of how we are the present and moving forward. And it really, it's so important that we reflect on a number of your contributions there. The issue of simply, with people talk about governance and democracy and participation, but that is fantastic and essential, but also, as you say, the ability to control and have a determining say over the use of your own land, resources, and the flora, fauna is an absolutely fundamental issue, very fundamental issue. And that is under threat in many parts of the world, and we have to be fully aware of that. So it's not a beautiful picture in the sense it's one of contested spaces in many places. At the same time, talking about solidarity and interconnectedness is really important. We must do things together. We must think about things together and see how we can take forward things together. Very, very important. And that brings us to the very important word cooperation. Yeah? So one of the underlying issues around when we talk about community-based tourism and also social tourism is actually we're taking out the aggressive competition out of the approach. It's not the market-based and big company-based approach. Why? Because it's cooperation. It's trying to encourage people, both hosts and guests, communities, and people from outside to work, to think together. So I really just can say, and lots of people in the comment box are just saying, absolutely, thank you, excellent. So it's a lot of affirmation for what you said, and a lot of resonance, not just across Latin America, but we know across the world for these challenges. Very, very live in India at present and in the Philippines, a number of the countries that people have been talking to us from. Natalia, muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much. It's perfect. We now have the privilege of staying within Latin America, as is good. More early mornings, slightly later early morning. And I'd like to now warmly welcome Mayra Vergotti from SESC in Sao Paulo in Brazil. So, welcome, bienvenido. Mayra's got a bachelor's degree in social sciences from the State University of Campinas and a master's degree in social anthropology from the same university. She's currently technical assistant for social tourism. This is why you're here. This is what we want to hear about. At SESC in Sao Paulo, and responsible for the state supervision of the permanent project Brasileiro que nem ao. AU, pardon me, desculpa. Brazilian like me. Which links SESC Sao Paulo's social tourism actions to community tourism projects in other parts of the country, mainly in the southeast of Brazil. And also supporting the social tourism actions of some SESC cultural centers in the state of Sao Paulo itself. So Mayra, without further ado, a warm welcome. Please join us and share.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you, Andy. And I'm very grateful for the invitation. Well, the institution that I represent here, SESC, is a national, private and non-for-profit company maintained by the trade sector, which includes commerce of goods, service, and tourism. SESC is an abbreviation for Social Service of the Commerce in English. The mission of SESC is to promote actions in favor of well-being, quality of life, and citizenship for its public. So the priority public that we serve is the employees of the commerce sector and their family members. We have several leisure, cultural, and educational centers all over the country. In São Paulo states, there are 40 SESC units, and today I'll talk about one program, the social tourism in SESC São Paulo state. Social tourism experience generate knowledge, instigate sensibility, and make a good interaction with others and the environmental possible. In the right side of the screen, you can see the core guidelines of social tourism program, like the democratization of access to tourism. I mean, the priority for the public with low income who may not have traveled in any other way. Educational through and for tourism, like through travel itineraries, people can be educated to be good travelers, respecting residents and the visited places. Another principle is participants and communities protagonism. Because it is an educational process, the public and the community participates, sharing feelings and ideas. Another one is the ethics and sustainability in our practices that I will talk more later. In the social tourism program, we have many kinds of trips. They are short, medium, and long trips that we offer, and also some one-day tours to a lot of cities along the states. There is a holiday center in São Paulo state that is located on the coast of Bertioga city, closer to the Atlantic forest area in Brazil. The holiday center has received families of workers for all-inclusive stays since 1948 until the beginning of the pandemic. Currently, we had cultural, sport, and social educational activities as well in the other SESC units. But in Bertioga, people can spend the night, and there is a capacity to accommodate 1,000 people. Besides, we are able to receive up 450 people just to spend a day. And the demand is very high. So there is a drawing system to attend the workers who are looking for the stay. The picture in the slide is a panoramic view of the holiday center. In this slide, we will also have some numbers to show you about how many people attended. And because of the pandemic, we are still processing the last year's numbers, but we have the numbers of 2018. Since the beginning of the institution, SESC has been concerned with the ethics, working for the right of leisure and the well-being of the people. In recent decades, sustainability is more and more an important issue. There are some examples of sustainable practices in our trip as in-ground travels, that are not by plane. Short trips are offered more than long ones. Another example is hiring local services as local guides. And in the holiday center, there are several environmental practices too, like solar panels for the new rooms, the capture and treatment of the water that supplies the center, an environmental education center for the guests, educational programs to the community, and we also have a protected area, which is a natural reserve. Currently, we have a project to discuss some important issues in tourism, especially about ethical concerns. Located in São Paulo city, there is a research and training center from SESC. In such place, we have started to promote some activities related to ethics and the tourism sector throughout seminar, courses, and lectures. And the first ethics in tourism meeting was in 2016. In 2012, we came closer to community-based tourism. That in social tourism, it means help to promote inclusion, not only for the receiving community, but also for our public, which means giving to more people the opportunity to be in contact with people of different places and cultures. And now with the pandemic, we have increased greatly our online actions, lives, any kinds of videos, classes, and so on. We will reopen gradually and respecting the capacity of our services, considering the employees that are really able to work. We elaborate different protocols to the returning according to the kind of activity that we do. The holiday center will be guided by strict rules in the cleaning and rules of conduct for employees and guests, respecting, for example, the social distance. The security protocols are based in protocols of the government, but also in WHO. In our trips, for example, when it is safe, we will offer just a small groups walking tour first, and bus tours will be offered later at the right time when it is safe for everyone. So these were some topics about social tourism in SESC and the current situation, and I hope I was able to show you a little about SESC and the social tourism program that we practice. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you very, very much, Mayra. Really fantastic. So again, you're sharing some really important issues with us. Number one, the dates. So SESC did not begin yesterday. Yeah, this goes back for a number of years. But what you have shared with us is that already you have integrated the principles of aspiring to be more sustainable, environmentally respectful, and having the principles of participation and involvement with people who are both traveling and receiving from the beginning. Yeah. So in a sense, what you've built in, you've integrated the principles into your practice already. So I think it's really, really important as we reflect on moving forward, that suddenly community-based tourism and social tourism doesn't happen like that with the click of the fingers overnight. It is on the basis of shared principles, shared visions, but also deep practice. Yeah, it's a serious agenda. So really important what you've shared there. Also moving forward, I think it's something generally for a discussion. As we discussed before today, thanks for that. The majority, if not all of your travelers, the people who are benefiting from SESC, are from Brazil. Yeah, and also the journeys from where the majority of your people who go to the centers can be made by, you don't have to fly, basically. You don't have to fly. I'm sure you could fly, but you don't have to fly at all. So if we're looking at the issues of climate change and climate pressures, but also the general attitudes to traveling internationally between countries, not just for the climate issues, but because of the increased sense of insecurity, let's say, or uncertainty, then it's really important as well. I think not just what you do and how you do it, but who you do it with and for, and to think that the people who may be both benefiting this may be coming from, not flying across the world, you know, to come and experience it, but maybe from a much more local area. And I think still within countries, still within regions, but I think this can affect a lot how people think about how they design and develop their programs. Okay, warm thanks, Mayra, excellent. So now, I don't say sadly, but we now move to our last of our, but no means least, contributors. Someone who I've had the privilege of knowing for a number of years is Sumesh Mangalassery from KABANI in South India, in Kerala, but also present working partnership with Equations, which is also based in South India, but in Bangalore. Sumesh is a forerunner of the sustainable community tourism, practitioner, campaigner, researcher, founder of KABANI, the other direction, which was actually a campaigning and advocacy organization. And that evolved into KABANI Community Tourism Services, which is itself a social enterprise, which is enabling people to be part of sustainable community tourism. Basically, after a short period in IT and seeing the absolutely horrible, irresponsible attitudes and practices of the mainstream tourism sector, having been raised in a background which was part of an embracing small-scale farming and nature, you felt that the heart of tourism ventures should be no different. 22 years of experience in tourism and development sectors, enabling them to critically participate and contribute to many discourses about tourism and development, including at national and international policy levels. And now he's associated with the Equitable Tourism Options Equations, which is a research, campaign and advocacy organization working on tourism and development issues in India, in various programs, including facilitating a network of community-based tourism practitioners. Vital at this moment in time, I think, given what we just heard from the other speakers. So Sumesh, without further ado, a warm welcome to you.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and namaste from India. And thank you, Auntie, for your wonderful introduction as usual. Today, I'm presenting our small initiative, which is based in southern part of India, which is KABANI. Of course, this pandemic is really big in scale, but people like us, it's not this crisis is not a new experience. Last 3 years, we have been experiencing a lot of other crises, like 2018 and 2019, we had a consecutive flood situation in our state. And also we had an epidemic called Nipah. So the crises are kind of, and the frequency of this crisis more frequent nowadays. Actually, KABANI as an organization, the formation of an organization is very much rooted to the principles of resilience. One is, we started with the current, the pitfalls of current tourism and its exploitative nature, including the vulnerability which we have been discussing in the context of this pandemic. And we want to avoid most of these negative aspects of tourism and promote a better resilient tourism program in our villages. And the second aspect of the formation of KABANI, the so-called agrarian crisis in our region that was led to a lot of farmers' suicide. And at the same time, industry wanted to promote tourism as an alternative to agriculture. But at the same time, we wanted to promote a tourism with an argument that tourism cannot be an alternative to agriculture, but it can be integrated to agriculture as an additional income for suffering farmers. This is a kind of a background of the organization which I work. And with this principle, we started working with farmers in our region to facilitate their homestays. Now it's known as homesteads. And also we work with rural women as storytellers, coordinators, small entrepreneurs, not just in tourism, in other avenues also. And of course, we're also working with local transporters. This model has quite a lot of advantage, which is we don't have any new investment for infrastructure in tourism. Because when we started our program, we started with built homes as homestays, existing vehicles for transportation. So basically, in a situation like this, there is no pressure on return on investment or repayment of loans, for tourism. So this is giving, kind of a relax for our people at least. There is no extra pressure. So far, our loss is opportunity lost, rather than a business loss into the conventional business model. Right from the beginning, we were we were concentrating on diversifying the income. All people involved in our program consider tourism as an additional income, like homestays, storytellers, taxi, small entrepreneurs. They're all, diversifying their income through tourism. So this is also, giving them a kind of a very dignified labor. When you come to our villages, resilient practices are our travelers, experiences. So many resilience practices like agriculture, food processing, everything part of our so-called tourism attraction. Whenever tourists are there, this is, tourist attractions. But in a kind of a crisis situation like this became, this is helping community to adapt to the situation. So this is and also we have strong linkages with local self-government. In India, Kerala model of COVID response is much discussed. And one of the strong component of that particular model is decentralized governance. So we are also trying to work with the local self-governments to bring decentralized governance in tourism in terms of managing tourism at destination level, monitoring tourism. This is one of the major component we are trying to work with local self-governments. And also we are concentrating on capacity enhancement at various levels of tourism. And of course, we believe that tourism is not a single, product. Rather than it is very much related to community well-being. If you have a very well, a community, that definitely give you a very good tourism. And of course, in the current crisis, our community, they are all busy with their agriculture practices like, rice and so on. And now they're also strengthening the current model with more entrepreneurship in food and other areas. And also they're trying to strengthen the existing resilient models, like they're also part of community kitchen and so on. They are now trying to bring more capacity enhancement in terms of hygiene, and especially the new standards which COVID situation looking for, and also safety and security standards. There are many other similar models across India. You can see that. And of course, I just want to mention one model which is in the Himalayas, Himalayan Arc. They're also working with similar principles. It is a network of women homestay. And they're also having similar concept, like working with local self-government. And also they created a contingency fund which they can use during this kind of a crisis. And of course, I'm also working with equations to create a network of such model in order to bring more voices into mainstream. So what I'm trying to say that these all are the models which can really scale up. And that is something I think we need to discuss. Many of these projects and programs showing great level of resilience and sustainability, but unfortunately, policies are not recognized in these kind of projects. Like, for example, policies are always biased towards, policies in the sense like incentives, tax exemptions, promotion, and also enabling atmosphere. It's all biased to mostly, mainstream or big players. So it is a high time that policy should recognize such programs. And also now everybody is talking about stimulus packages and also bailout packages and all. But unfortunately, these practices, for example, what the package announced in India is completely exempted informal sector. There is no scheme for informal sector. And also the announced scheme, access to credit and resources, is also a big issue. But when it comes to informal sector, in a country like India, 70% of the tourism workforce is from informal sector. Addressing policies to these sectors are very important aspects of any future tourism. Decentralization of powers should be one of the key aspects of future tourism. Because everywhere in tourism destinations, we can see that tourism planning and tourism management is a core issue. And of course, according to our regional government, we call it Panchayati Raj institutions, we have enough powers and functions to take decisions and manage and monitor tourism. So that kind of a provision should be utilized. But unfortunately, tourism is still remain as a very centralized kind of an activity. And of course, market support is one of the important aspects. People are talking about more and more village, rural tourism and all. Of course, in a post-pandemic situation, people are expecting more tourism inflow to such places. So there has to be a clear, management mechanism. For that, I think, we should enable and strengthen the local self-government. The current situation, we are all talking about the pandemic, but for us, definitely the situation opens an opportunity to advocate more and more community-led tourism programs as a safer, resilient, and sustainable a model of tourism. And I think this is something we should take forward from this moment as a learning of this big catastrophe. And thank you, Auntie, for, and others for listening me.
Good. Well, Sumesh, it's a privilege as always to hear your wise words. It's great. And just to stress 3 things from what you said. Number 1, resilience didn't begin today. It's been historic, both in the roots of KABANI and the work you're doing, but across the country. And let us be more in. So the question is, how is that taken forward into the future? What are the learnings from that? And then secondly, that's the relationship with local authorities, local government. What can be a positive enabling environment for this? Yeah, there can, as we heard from Natalia, there can be many barriers put up. So this is how can we look for an enabling environment? What does that look like? And I know part of that is having a positive relationship already that you can then take forward into the future. There's been a range of very, very interesting comments and questions included in some very vital and vibrant networking. So I'm going to pick out a couple of things which I'd like each of the speakers to just respond to. The simple summary of some of the questions are, I'm going to put it into 2 things. Is a key aspect of community-based tourism that it doesn't create a dependent culture. Yeah, it's an issue of additional and complementary income as opposed to dependent income. If that is a correct assumption, how do we integrate that into our practice moving forward? Yeah, what are the lessons in the past? From that we can take into the forward. And I know all of you in some way have got that experience. And then secondly, a number of speakers, I'm summarizing, especially from Salita and others, the Sanjeev, Sarangi as well, a lot of interesting comments. Essentially, if I'm distilling, what does resilience mean? What does resilience in communities mean in practice for the context of tourism for the future? Okay, so that's 2 enormously big questions. And so please take from those as you wish for the future, in your responses. And could I continue the order that people presented? And therefore, a couple of minutes or so on those, please, Claudia.
How to recover? This is the question. Do we have the capacity to recover quickly after the coronavirus and after the corona crisis? I think it's very important. We see it in Germany, like with the mass tourism, how big the problems are. And I think especially the community-based tourism has a good thing that the community-based tourism, like Sumesh said, it's not only based on tourism, it's based on agriculture and everything. So I think this could help to go through the corona crisis, because tourism itself, it will take at least 2 years till it will really recover.
Can I go next to Natalia for your a few thoughts on those 2 big questions, please? You did start to answer them in your presentation, I know already.
Okay, yes, yes, and I agree with some comments of the chat about that. Yeah, that tourism, it has to be a complementary activity. Yeah, the communities right now have to focus on the resources they have. So that's why it's so important that they have control of those assets and those resources, because their existence depends on that. Then they can diversify. I think another word that could be key is diversity. No, diversity in general, diversity not only in fauna, flora, but cultural, socially, economically. Then probably we need to check a little bit more about the basic meaning of economy, no, of this activity that tries to organize the resources that they have on the land, and how we succeed as a society through that management of those resources. That we are the resources. Yeah, the people is the resources. We are the ones that are leading our development, and we need to focus again on that, what we have on the territory, and how can we organize each other to arise and to succeed as a society, and it has to be linked to diversity, diversity in any kind, and control and link to the land, and the resources.
Perfect. I fully agree with you. And in fact, that's been resonated by Nina Sadev. And she says, as I see it, resilience would mean to fight, to keep the resources in the hands of the community and to redesign the development strategies accordingly, which I think is amplifying what you were saying. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah. Mayra, could you share your thoughts briefly on these two big questions? Sorry.
For sure. Well, I think I totally agree with Claudia and Natalia, because I think community-based tourism have to be a secondary activity in the community, because the traditional activity is very much it's very important to the sustainability of the community. So I think it's not enough to say that we have to improve our work in tourism, but actually make a good practices that we are able to do in generations. Agriculture or any kind of fishing, or any kind of activities that the community are organized and know how to do better than anyone. So yes, I think it's very important to the resilience and the powerful of their knowledge. Yes.
Absolutely. Perfect. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Mayra. And so lastly, I'll call to Sumesh just to bring those, just amplify probably what you said during your presentation, and maybe building a bit on the enabling side with local government.
Yeah, I think tourism is considered as a development option. So we cannot take only economic aspect of it when we discuss about resilience. I still emphasize on community well-being is one of the, it should be the central point of resilience, and a kind of well-developed community of quite a lot of advantage in terms of resilience. And I think I'm again emphasizing the point that governance at various levels of tourism is one of the most important aspect. So that participation in various levels of tourism is one of the most important aspect of the resilient, in order to make tourism more resilient. That should be the central point of discussion. This is what I believe. Like participation into decision-making, participation into business, definitely. And also participation in managing tourism. It's a big issue in tourism destinations today, managing, especially destination management. And the fourth one is monitoring tourism, because tourism is considered as a development activity. To what extent tourism is beneficial or detrimental to that community has to be monitored. And there are existing provisions for that, and that has to be utilized.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you, Sumesh, and also for your concise summary there. I'd like to thank all the four speakers for your sharings of your experience and your reflections, and also your visions for the future. I'd also, so warm thanks to you all. Greatly appreciative of your time and your energy. It shows the power of bringing people together under a common theme, which is what the beginning of this process is. It is the first of a number of activities in the Transforming Tourism Initiative.